Fine. So, if you have any query before starting the lecture, just let me know, or otherwise, I will start with the lecture. Do you have any query, guys? Just you can write in the chat box also if you want. Hello. If you have any query, just write. Otherwise, write no. I will just proceed. Okay, okay. Just find if you have any problem, just let me know. And if you're learning the coding for the first time, just be with me. I will just explain you everything, like what's the thing and what you need to do. So like if you are starting coding for the first time, then you have to generally know the fundamental of a coding language. So like coding is just like the like if you are learning any language, so language and coding language is exactly the same thing. The only difference is that language is for the humans. We just if I want to communicate with you in English or Hindi or Telugu, Tamil, in any language, I have to learn a particular human language. And if you want to communicate with computer, you have to learn a coding language. So that's the fundamental difference between a coding language and a human language. Okay. And let me show you like what are the similarity specifically. So like in the English, you start with learning alphabet. So you learn A, B, C, and then similarly you learn the capital alphabet letters. And at the next stage, when you are in your childhood, you must have learn to memorize some word. Like apple and some other words like ball. And these things, these words are actually made up of the letters. So these letters actually comes in some particular sequence and they form a words. And those words like apple have some meaning in the real life sense, ball has some meaning in the real life sense. So every words that is made up of some letters, these are actually having some meaning in the real life sense. And that is what makes a word so useful, because these words have meaning. We understand what the apple means. So if anyone will tell you what the apple is, you will just visualize a picture of an apple. Then at the next step, what they do is we just learn to form the sentences. So we just use different letters. So like I am, like I am a boy. So these are different set of words, different set of words. And this actually comes in a particular sequence. Now this whole sentence makes some meaningful sense to you. So I'm a boy. It makes a meaningful sense to you because these things represent something. These things represent a meaning. It is about someone. It's telling about yourself. So these things start when at the first you must have started with the alphabet. Then you use those alphabets to form the words, and then use those words to form the sentences. And at later stage, at the advanced stage, you actually start learning about the paragraph. So you write a lot of this type of sentences and then actually make a paragraph. So this complexity of writing a paragraph, writing a essay, writing a story comes when you actually started learning with alphabet. Actually same thing goes with the learning programming also. So I have exclusively told that I'll be teaching you the C language, because C language is a most common language. And also you will, if you learn C language, you will be able to understand the most of the pseudo code that is actually mentioned in any programming language. So like in the CMI paper, you must have looked at the paper and you found some of the pseudo code written. So the syntax of the pseudo code is actually same as like more or less same as the that of the C language. So that's why we are focusing on the C language, because it's the more or less fundamental thing. Okay, so to write a program, to understand a program, which is actually the very advanced level, you have to learn to write the instructions. So instructions means like if you are telling a code to like let's say you are trying to find area of a triangle. To find area of triangle, what you need to do is you need to write some instructions, some set of instructions. Actually set of instructions means some like 4 to 5 line of code. Those actually will be able to calculate the area of a triangle, which will be called a program. To learn to write a program, you have to write instructions. To learn to write instructions, you have to know the what are the constant, what are the variables, what are the keywords. If you actually don't know these terms, don't worry, I will be discussing each and everything in this slide only. And to know like what are the constant, what are the variables, what are the keywords, you have to learn about the like the basic fundamentals of the C, about the alphabet of the C, about the digits of the C, about the special symbol that is actually mentioned in the C language. So whatever programming language you are learning, you can just compare that with the same thing, same English language. And just whenever you are stuck, just try to think that how we actually learn a language. And that's how you also learn a programming language. So from this background we will be just starting everything in detail, and I will just tell you everything starting from the very basic. So let me tell you about the constant variables and keywords. So if you are starting programming from now only, or if you have started have done written some program earlier, you must have been familiar with these type of words, and these type of keywords actually come in a lot of ways. So constant variables and keywords, so these three things we'll be hearing a lot of time. So constant is actually, like the constant that you understand in mathematics or physics. A constant is an entity that does not change. Like maybe some of you, some particular scientist gave the gravitational constant. Some gave, like some other constant, pi is also constant. So whenever we want to define some constant, its value will actually not change throughout the program. So we will see how to define a constant, like how to you define a constant. So constant generally means whatever you understand in the real world, like its value will not change throughout the program. Its value will remain the same. Keywords, like keywords are something that has been actually been used for framing a language. So let's say, like you are writing a C program. So there must have been some keyword means must have been some set of words that is actually been used while writing C language. So like you are writing a story, and the story is about the Ram. Ram is a boy, and you are writing a story about the Ram. So Ram is a keyword of your story. So if I want to write a story, so if you are telling it just write a story, but don't use the name that I have been using. So Ram is a keyword that I can't use because you have used this keyword in your language, in your story. So that's why C program, C code, and also, like if you're using Python or if you're using any language, Java, there are a lot of keywords that are actually been part of this language. So you can't use these type of keywords right in writing your program. But these are the definition of keyword, which is predefined and reserved word. Okay. Then also come questions of the what are the variables. So we also take a look at the what are the variables. So variables are something that you want to define. So let's say you are writing a code, and you are writing a code to find the area of triangle. So what you will need, you just want to store, like a triangle has three sides. So you want to store the measurement of this side, A side, B side, and C side. So to store the measurement of this side, you need a variable. Like in maths, sometimes you say that let the variable be x. So that's the variable name, because you have not arrived at a conclusion about what the x is. And while solving the equations, you will be able to find a particular x. So that's what the variable in programming language is also. So like if I talk about the high level idea, programming is just like the mathematics. So you will be finding a lot of mathematical problem that you will be solving using the programming languages. So programming is lot like mathematics. So if you have a good mathematical skill, you will have a good programming skills, and vice versa. Okay. So variable names are the given to locations in memory. So what happens, let's say you want to store the area of you want to find the area of a triangle. So you have three sides, A, B, and C. So you told you, okay, my side will be A is equal to, let's say, 3, B is equal to 4, and C is equal to 5. Okay. So this is the thing that you want to declare my side of triangle. So like when you declare a variable, so you are essentially declaring a variable in a C language. So in C language, whenever you declare a variable, that will be stored inside some memory. So let's suppose that this is the memory. So what A is equal to 3 means, A is equal to 3 means there will be some locations where 3 will be stored, and that memory will be named as A. So that means A is equal to 3. So here it's written as X is equal to 3. That's the same thing. So let's say 4. So 4 may be stored here, and it will be named as B. So it means B is equal to 4. So that's what we mean when we define a variable. Okay. So variable means variables are name given to the locations. So maybe you have stored something, some name, some integer at this point, at this location, and you want to access this integer. So how we will access this integer? You will access this integer by this memory, this memory locations, and these are the variable names are the that particular name. So overall you can say that at any particular memory locations we store a variable. Let's say we store 4, and we give a name to that variable. So that is the actually variable names. Like a lot of things actually may not be making sense to you, but as soon as we will start to look at moving towards a complete program, you'll be uh, understanding a lot of things. Okay, so if you have any questions till now, you can let me know. Guys, if you have any questions, or if it's clear, then just tell me. If it's clear, then I will move ahead. I will be providing with the slides and everything, the lectures also. So should I move ahead? Okay. Okay. Okay, you can always watch the recordings and just see if things make sense and just read these things. Okay, so like we talk about the constant, we talk about the variables, we talk about other things like So what are the constant? So constant, like in general, C programming has two types of constant. It's called primary constant and secondary constant. So primary constant means like there are three types of variables possible: integer, real, and character. So integer means like numbers, which is like like 2, 3, or maybe -2, 0. This type of things are called integer. Real constant, like in typically in programming language, real number means some numbers which has some you can say decimal point of value. So 2.5, maybe 2.2, 3.6, or -0.7. So these things are called real numbers in aspect of programming language. So I'm telling what's the things with the programming language. So these things are called integer, and these things are called real numbers. Okay, so these two are different things. So it's not like in the general term. So whenever I talk about the real constant or real value, so just try to understand it, these things are called real values. Okay, in aspect of programming language, it's also called floating number. Okay, float value we can also call. So just in general term, we just people see that yeah, these are the uh, integer value. Okay, and there are some character constant, like a is a character, so it can also be used. Like, let us suppose you want to define a gender. So gender can be either male or female. So m, or you can write f. So these are called characters. So characters are specifically included in the double inverted comma. So like this, you do want to define f or female, so you will write double inverted comma like this. Okay, so we will see the way we define integer constant or real constant. We will say the way we'll just starting from the scratch. So understand that these are called a primary constant. Okay, and then there are secondary constant. So like array, pointer, structure, union, these things are very advanced thing. So we will also see like how to define an array, how to define a pointer, structure, union, these type of things we'll also see. So if you just want to give a high level notation, these are, you can just understand it basic, what you can say, basic data type. And these things you can understand as advanced data type. Okay, advanced. So these things we will just see how to define an array, how to actually work with array in the inside the C programming language. And you will also find some particular questions in the CMI paper also related to the array and pointer also. So we will see these things. So in broad sense, we can just say that primary or secondary constant. Primary means the main thing that are like integers, real characters, and some modified form of these things. So like integer, real characters can be modified to form an array. So typically speaking, array is just like some collection of elements. So like you want to collect marks of 5% in English. So like 10, 15, or maybe 20. So these type of things you can call an array. So we'll see these things if you just understand these things for now. Okay, that there are two type of constant. Okay. Okay, so as I told, there are some specific rules to define a constant. Like if you want to define a constant in integer constant or real constant or character constant, there are specific set of rules that you need to follow. So just let us see what those rules are. So first we will start with the integer constant. So first of all, first rule is that an integer constant must have at least one digit. Okay, so let's say you are defining some constant, so it must have one. It's not like you divide an empty constant. So x is an empty constant. It cannot be like that. X may be like 2 or 4 or 1,000, but it must have a single digit. So single digit must it have. Okay, so these things, this is the first rule. Okay, it must not have a decimal point. So you can ask you why it cannot have decimal point, because this is an integer constant. If it has a decimal point, it will be counted as a real constant. I told you between the real and the integer difference in the programming languages. So it must not have a decimal point. It can either be positive or negative. Obviously integer can be either positive or negative. If you want to define any negative integer or positive integer, it's up to you. Also, if no signs precedes an integer, so like you defined that x is equal to 7, obviously it will be counted as positive 7 plus 7. but if you exclusively told that x is equal to -7, then you know that it is a -7. No commas or blanks are allowed within an integer constant. Okay, so you cannot write integer like x is equal to, like 3 2 comma 6 7 8. You cannot write this way. Okay, so this comma, or maybe you cannot write this way also, 40,101. So you cannot define this one. This blank space is not allowed. So this blank space is not allowed. You have to write everything, like adjacent to each other. So maybe you want to define 32,554. You have to write everything adjacent to each other. It's not like you just give a comma or give a space here. That is be counted as an error in the programming languages. And the next thing is that like these are the range for integer constant. So this thing is actually not important, because these things will be important when you are actually running a code. So when you are running a code, you will know that range integer constant have some range. So we will see later in the code how these things actually work. So you can just keep the things these two now. Okay, and then comes the real constant. Just like integer, I also discussed there are some real constant. So real constant, what do you mean? So these are called floating point constant. I also told that real integers are also called float values or float. So these are also called float or floating point constant. The real constant could be written in two form. Okay, so like this is one of the fundamental concept related to programming language, that a real constant can be written in two form. One is the fractional form. So a number, or like 3.267, this can be written is this form. This is called fractional form and can be exponential form. Okay, like some people write like 3.28 uh, e and e5. So this thing is called as exponential form. So fractional form or exponential form written in terms of e. So if you just are aware of what the concept of it, then you must know that like let's say we want to define a number. We have number 1,000, 10,000. So 10,000, one maybe 10,008. Okay, so you maybe write this number as 1.00 uh, 08 into 10 to the power 4. You can write this way, and same way you can convert this into 1.0008 e e4. So this thing is can be written at this way. If it has been in the -4, you have written there minus. So we'll see this thing. Okay, so what are the rules? A real constant must have at least one digit, and it must have a decimal point. Because if it's not a decimal point, then it will be a simply integer. Okay, it could be either positive or negative. Same thing. A default sign is positive, and also no commas or blank space are allowed within a constant. It's not like you just I explained you the way the commas and blanks are actually represented. Okay, so these things are not allowed. So if you just follow these rules, so if anyone may ask why these rules are actually making sense, because these rules are made while constructing the C language. It's not the rule I made, it's not the rule or the author of the book made, it's the rule the creator of programming language made. So there are certain rules related to programming language, like in English we also need first letter of any paragraph start with a capital letter. So it's a rule. You can't say that who made this rule and why these things make sense. So these rules you need to follow to learn the language, and these things are there. So like exponential form representation of real constant are used for like if the value is too large or too small. So let's say you want to represent some 10 millions number with a 10 million figure. So that will be like lot of digits if you want to explain. So that's why we use this floating exponential form. So these things are actually helpful in the representing a long or small values. Okay, so let me just focus more on the exponential form. So like these things are important and a lot of questions can be made. So like let's visualize this number. Okay, so it's written 3.2 e minus 5. So there are two part of the any exponential form. One is called mantissa. So maybe you have heard this term for first time, and the other is called exponent. So like here is the e. The part appearing before e is called mantissa. So here mantissa is plus 3.2. Okay, and part appearing after e is called exponent. So exponent here is minus 5. So this is the actually terms related to particular programming languages. So any number you write, any number you write in the exponential form, you can just implement those numbers in mantissa and exponent form. So mantissa is simply a part before e, written here, and the exponent is apart after e. So here minus 5 is the exponent. Okay, so these things are there with the programming languages. And if just we see ahead, so like you may ask, like what is the rule of to change a real constant into exponential form. So these things are actually very much simple, and I just explained you what a mantissa and exponent is. So the mantissa part and exponential part should be separated by a letter e. So we obviously saw that obviously saw that these things are the exponential form. The numbers in the exponential form are actually represented by this way. So the first rule is simple, ki we have to be separated the mantissa and exponential form by e. What's next? Mantissa part may be positive or negative. So Mantissa part means the part before E can be positive or negative. The default sign of Mantissa is positive, same thing. Exponent must have at least one digit which must be positive or negative. Same thing, like if the power is in, so let's say we are representing, let's say it's written 0.018 E4. So it simply means just multiply this whole number, 1.018 into 10 to the power 4. And if it's written 1.018 e minus 4, it simply means that multiply 1.018 into what you can say 10 to the power minus 4. So these things are there. It can be positive or negative. It can be positive or negative. We have to separate it by e, and the signs are interpreted as this way. So this is actually very large number, and this is actually very short number. So you can just understand this way. Default sign is positive. Everything for the same. And like I told you, range is the something that you have to worry later. Okay, so these things that you need to keep in mind. So this is a rule that you need to follow if you are trying to change a real constant in exponential form. So two form are there, I told you. Simple is the fractional form and exponential form. So in C programming also, you will like exclusively countering three things. If you want to declare any variable, it will be either int, or it will be either a floating point number, or it will be either a character. So these things will be always be there in your sorry, with any programming languages. So just you need to be know about all these things, key what are these things in detail. So many times your variable will be integer, many times your variable will float or character. So you need to know the characteristic of these types of what you can say, the data type or the constant. Okay, and we will just see a lot of things in the, we'll also see like programming things in a day or two. But things is that these are the basic thing, and if you don't know these things, you just want to write a program, you'll have a lot of difficulty. Okay, so we discussed the like a character, or we discussed the int, and we discussed the float. So it's time we should discuss about the character also. So rules for constructing a character statement, character constant. Okay, like there are two things in the coding language. One is called character, and the second thing is called string. Okay, so what's the difference between character and string? Character means a single letter. It's maybe A or B or maybe F or maybe X. So these are all single letters. The single letters are called characters, and like a string are the collection of letters. So it may be like your someone name is Ram. So Ram is a string because it has more than one letter. Sorry, more than one alphabet. Okay, so character means a single alphabet, and like a string means a group of alphabet. Let's say Ram is a boy. Ram is a boy. So this is also a like a correct string because it also has a lot of alphabet. So this space is also counted as a like a separate string, separate entity. Okay, so you have to be keep in mind about the character and string thing. Character means single alphabet, and string means a group of alphabet. We will see the string also in the later lectures. So a character constant is a single alphabet or a single digit or a single special enclosed symbol enclosed within a single inverted comma. So like maybe you just want to define a dollar sign as character, you can define, just put it into the single inverted comma. Okay, you may want to define at the rate as a special symbol, so you also can define this. Maybe you want to define y as a special symbol, you can also do this. Maybe you can define 8 as a space. 8 is an integer, but let's say you want to define it as a character. So like if you are starting programming for the first time, you might be wondering that why we want to define 8 as a character and not 8 as an integer. So just suppose this way. Okay, so we can also define we can also define any number, any special symbol, or any alphabet as the single character. Okay, and the maximum length of a character constant can be one letter. So it cannot be like you defining a character of AB. So let's say you are defining a character AB, so this will be a string, and the property of a string is different from the property of a character. That why just keep in mind that a character constant means just we are talking about a single alphabet we are talking about. Okay, not like like a group of alphabet. We will just see these things in the later chapters. Okay. And okay, so we just talk about the like rules for constructing constant. So constant we saw that. So what is the rules for constructing a variable name? So let's say ki you want to find area of a triangle, and what's the way you can just name this side? So I told you A, B, C. You can just write the name of this particular side. What's the name of this particular side? So let's say someone has name Ram, someone is Syam. So what's the way human make a like calling name? You cannot call a you might not have heard anyone named Ram 007. So this is the way human actually make the name, because human have just made a separate rules that whatever the names will make will just contain 26 letter of alphabet, no numbers, no special symbols. Just you not find someone that is Syam hashtag. So this is not the name any person you will find with Syam hashtag or at the rate Syam. These things are not valid in the human term. Okay, so in the same way, for declaring a variable names, there are some rules for the coding language. So what are the rules? Let's discuss these rules. Okay, so these rules will be coming very handful if you are writing any coding, any program, because you have to just understand that if you write wrong variables name, you will be encountered with an error. Okay, so that's why to minimize, to understand why those things happen, just let's study about the variable names rules. Okay, the first rule is a variable name can have alphabet, digit, or underscore. So just take this example. Okay, so this variable name is si underscore int. So it's clearly mentioned in the c documentation, c language, that whatever the variable names you are declaring, it will have alphabet, digit, or underscore. So it cannot have at the rate, hashtag, or dollar, or some other sign. These things are not allowed while constructing a variable name. Okay, these things are actually not allowed. So whatever variable names you are constructing, just it can have alphabet, digits, or underscore. Second thing, a variable can start with alphabet or underscore. So like you cannot start any variable names with the like two underscore int. These things are actually not allowed, because it's specifically mentioned in the rules that whatever the variable names are there, you have to start with alphabet or underscore. Third is the thing, no white space or commas are allowed. So like there is also common term white space. So let me just discuss what is a white space. So like white space in coding language can be of three types. Okay, first is called like backspace. So backspace, like in your keyboard there is actually a long button which is called a backspace button. Okay, this means like this is the long button just right above the mouse touching touchpad. There is actually a long button, it's called space. And then there is a something called like tab. So there is also a tab button, and there is also called enter button. So these three things are called white space in the coding language. We will just seeing a lot of things like what are the use of these things in the like later lecture. But for now, just see that there are three white spaces: uh, normal space or backspace, tab, or enter. Okay. So white space, we'll be discussing all those things in the later term. So just keep in mind that no white space or commas are allowed within the variable names. A variable name must not be reserved word or keyword. So like we already told that there are some reserved keywords in the programming language C. So you cannot declare these things as the like variable name. So just we will see what are the list of those keywords that are actually mentioned in the C language. So simply telling the if you are constructing any variable name, the first letter must start with either character or underscore. And second thing is that a number you can use in the middle. And apart from these things, you cannot score anything use anything else. So only numbers are allowed, uh, alphabets are allowed, and underscore are allowed. Okay, so these all things are allowed while constructing a variable name. And also variable name must not start with any digit. So it always start with underscore or white like this character. So do you have any questions till now? Just let me know, guys. Anyone? Okay, okay, just let me know. Okay. Yes. Okay, okay. Like whenever we are just constructing any character constant, like you have to see the direction of this single inverted comma. So here you can see that the both single inverted comma are in the same direction. So when you will, like write the code in the C language, just you need to keep in mind that you just give the single inverted comma in the same direction. So like just see this minor detail. That's why it's written this way. Okay, is it clear now? Okay, okay. And you can here see that there's a single inverted comma in the both the different direction. One is this and one is the downward. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, so we will see. Just don't worry. Means just stick with me for some period of time, and we will see live coding also. Is it fine? Okay, so like I told ki, I will start from basic. That's why I thought ki I should just focus on these things, three things. So like some of you might have been who are not actually familiar with programming. uh, that's why like it's okay, 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 okay. So like the way we define variable is like this. Like if you want to define an integer variable, so there is a specific keyword there in the coding language C, which is int. If you want to define a float variable, or if you want to define a character variable, there is specific keyword for this. Okay. So so these things you must know key how to define a variable. So if you want to define integer, just write int. Okay, int. And then like the name of the variable. So either si is a integer variable. If you want to define multiple integer, just you can write in the same line a lot uh, different variables separated by the comma, like this way. Here si is a separate integer and amhr is a separate integer. Similarly, if you want to define a float, you can write this way. If you want to define character, you can write this way. And specifically in C language, every statement should end with a semicolon. Because like in human being also, if you write any English statement, you just like after writing a statement, just use full stop. So because full stop is treated as the end of the end of a sentence. That's how in C, particular C programming language, semicolon is treated as the end of a single line instruction. Okay, so these things are very important. And if you not write the single inverted semicolon, you will see that there will be some errors in your code. Okay, so just let's move to the some reserved keyword that you're talking about. So I specifically told that keywords are the words those have already been explained to the C language. Okay, so here we have a word which is called compiler. So compiler is responsible for like when we're giving some instruction set, a compiler read through the instruction set and run and like run those instruction set to give out you some output. So these things is the high level meaning of compilers. Compilers, actually there is a specific topic in the computer science, compiler design. So that's the a lot of different thing. So keywords are actually reserved keywords are actually those things have been actually specified earlier in the prior to the constructing the language. Keywords cannot be used as a variable name. So I hope these things I explained earlier that these things cannot be used for constructing variable name, because these are actually explained, verified, what you can say, explained, and these have a special meaning inside a programming language. That's why it's important you should not use any C keyword. So these are the particular set of C keywords that you need to know. So like just need not to remember anything, because as you will progress through the C course, you will just using a lot of these things in your code also. So that's how you will use if statement, go to, for loop, continue, default, do, character, constant, like return, sort, static, while. So these things you will all use with while running a programming language. So these things you need not to remember. Okay, so just for sake of your information, I included this slide. Okay, so now if you know all those things, so how do you actually write your first program? Like many people who are learning the programming, just they write first program as the hello world. So just let's see what is the how do we actually write a program. So like for writing any particular C program, you must include this particular header file. Okay, so has include stdio.h. So this is particular header file. Just you need to write this as the same way you have written. Then you write int main, and inside a single inverted comma, sorry, this curly braces. These two curly braces you can spot here, and inside these two curly braces we write our code. Okay, so if you are new to programming, you might have been like a lot of new things like what is the printf, what is this thing, and this return, what are all those things. So just let's crack everything step by step. So this thing is called as a header file. Okay, so header file actually gives instruction to the compiler that you have to include all the required libraries, required instruction to execute this code. That's why this particular code is necessary. If you not include the header file, it will throw out an error in your when you try to run the program. Second thing, int main. So main is a function. So when you will discuss the lot of things later in the code, you will see that there are some particular function. So main function is actually like been in the C program, with the C program, and whatever you write an instruction you write inside the main program. So whenever code will start to learn, this function will run by its own. So just don't worry about all those things. Just think that key whatever you write inside the main program, and you'll just see what is the what's the way a function is written inside the C language or any particular programming language. Okay, we'll see this type of thing. And there are two different things, printf and scanf. So here is written as printf. So printf is used to show any message. So let's say you want to show a message on a screen that hello world, or maybe you want to write that my name is xyz. So these type of things you can run, and you can write inside the print statement. So the syntax is just write a double inverted comma, write your statement, and close it with a double inverted comma, and inside the bracket just write, after the bracket write the semicolon. So this is the high level idea of how to write a printf statement, and then you write return zero. So like if you want, we can just have just a live program that you want to see. So these things you can just run and see on yourself, and I will see example of a high level code after this thing. So do you anyone have problem, if if a specialist new with the programming language, do you have problem with understanding what's written here? Is everything clear, like at a high level? Because slowly when you will go through a lot of programming classes, these things will be actually much clear. Anyone, if you have any problem, just let me know. Okay, I think no one of you has problem, so just let's move ahead. So since today I explained that this is actually very basic programming class, so we'll starting from the scratch, and as soon as we move towards the higher level, we'll just see how to solve complex problem. But first you need to just make some basic under like basic building blocks of the coding. So what's the point to keep in mind while you are writing any coding language? So first thing is that each instruction in a C program is written as separate statement. So I exclusively told that ki these statement have, these things are sequential statements. So line by line, whenever compiler try to run this program, they run this program line by line. So they run this first line, then the second line, then the third line, then the fourth line, and this way the code runs. So these are some single line statement. Okay, so a, a complete C program is a series of statement. So whatever you are seeing here, it's a complete C program, and all these particular statement together makes the C program. Okay, so you have to understand that there are some statement. Just I told you there are some instruction, and based on the instruction, we make some program. So these one line, any one line, you can just say that any one line instruction is can be separate statement. All statements are entered in a small case. So you cannot see any keywords in this capital letter. It's not like capital here is capital studio.h is written. Okay, so this thing you have to keep in mind that all everything whatever mentioned are in the small letter. So this is a message, this is a message that you want to show on the screen. You can write it in the way you want. So this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the coding thing, like this include thing, studio thing, int main, and all this printf statement. These are all written in the small letter, a small alphabet letter. Okay. The second thing is that the third thing is every C statement must end with a semicolon. So I already discussed that the semicolon is the statement terminator, and it assumes that whenever semicolon is encountered, the compiler assumes that the line ends here. The third thing is that the statement in a program must appear in the same order in which we wish to be executed. So it's not like, like if let's say you want, wrote another printf statement here, and you want that particular message to be printed just after the first statement. So you need to write that particular statement after the first statement. So I told you, like, everything goes executed line by line unless you are using any for loop, which we'll see in the letter, or you are using any if else condition. Okay, so these things are there. So that's why I told ki you need to these things all executed in the line by line fashion. So this is the way a programming language is executed. Okay, so let's see something also. So how to write a comments in the programming language. So you can see that a comment in a programming language is written in the this way, like a slash, then a star, and then a star closed by a slash. So these things is particularly used for writing a comment in a multi-line. So like these things are two-line comment. But if you want to write a single line comment, you can just use this particular syntax, just two slash and just write your comment, and those things are not be executed. So comment, like in comment in programming language generally means that these are just for the sake of understanding, and this will not be executed when the program will run. So these things actually don't have any meaning for the compiler will not run this thing, because these are just comment, plain comment. These are not the code. So how to write a comment? Just single, what you can say, this slash star, write a multi-line comment, and whenever the multi-line comment end, just star and then closing slash. So these things we can use to write a comment in the programming language. So you can see that here a comment has been written, like this whole program. This is actually a screenshot of a real program, and how a single line comment, a multiple line comment has been written. Okay. Uh, then, like I told you, there are some statement like printf or scanf. So just you saw that what's the printf do. Printf actually displays some message on the screen. I actually told you how you actually, like you want to display the hello world, you will just write this program. Okay. And printf actually is to display some message. So like let's say you want to print some integer, print some floating point number, print some character. So there are specific ways you can write these instructions to show a message, a number, a height, gender. So like when you will run this code, so when you run this code, you will see that to write the, like to print the number, there is something called format specifier. What you can say, uh, format specifier. Okay, so format specifier specifies which type of format do you want. So what are you actually trying to print. So for that we use a format string. So if it encountered percent f, so this symbol is called percent. So if you encountered percent f, it will exclusively assume that you are trying to print a real values or floating point values. Okay, so these things is understood. If it encountered percent d, it will just assume that you are trying to print an integer, and for percent c, it will just assume that you are trying to print a character. So like in this code, you can see that we have defined three different variables: number, which is 32, height as 34.487, and gender as m. Okay, so we have written it printf and percent d. So percent d means we are trying to print a number which is 32. So you can see that in output also we have got here 32. In height, you can see that we have printed as percentage because this is a floating point number. Okay, so we have got 34.487 as a floating point number. And the gender, you can see that we have just got here m because we just written percent c. So these things are the, like if you want to percent print a character, you just write percent f. Then it will give some ambiguous output or maybe throw some errors. That depends on compiler. But if you want to write the correct output, you have to do these things. You might be wondering what this slash n is all about. Okay, so just for the sake of now, just simply understand it. Slash n is used for changing the new lines. Okay, so if you don't write slash n in any of this code, and just write percent d, percent a, percent c, and this whole section, it will just give you a single output. Like it will give output like 32 34.487 m. So these things, everything, every output, you will just print in the same line, which actually does not make sense to a human language. Okay, so what we do after every printf statement, we include backslash n, which does mean that we want to change the line after particularly executing data statement. So when this particular statement has been executed, 32 is printed, like next thing will be presented in the single next line, different line. And after that you also need to change the line to get the different line. And after this you may exclude this backslash n, because after this there is no instruction to be printed. So that's how backslash n is useful in running any code. So this is the way actually like we write printf statement. So guys, is this thing clear for you all? If you any doubt, let me know. Otherwise, I'll move ahead. Okay. Okay, like let's assume that if you don't have problem, then just see what is the scanf statement here. Okay, so it's, like printf was being used to get the output. So if you want to show some output in some particular format, you use printf. A scanf is used to take input from screen. So like there is some user who want to uh, give an input to the screen, you used scanf. So like let's see how the scanf is actually executed. So like you want user to enter their age. So you just given a statement using printf that enter your age. So what the user will do, user will enter like 23 or maybe 28, whatever their age is. To store that particular age, you have to construct a variable. So like age is a kind of like integer, so you want to construct an integer variable naming age that will be used for storing the age. That's why we just constructed a new variable of type integer that will store the value of age. Okay, so to store any particular integer, a particular like float, a particular character using the scanf, there's a particular different format. So like the way you write is first write the scanf, then in the bracket you need to write the what do you want to store. So like if you want to store floating point number, you just write percentage. Okay, for storing the integer, you just need to write percent d. So it clearly signifies that you are trying to store an integer. Then put a comma and then this sign which is called ampersand. Okay, it is called address of sign or also called ampersand sign. Okay, so just put this sign and name of the variable that you have declared. So this will what will it will do, when user will enter 23, it will take the 23, and as I told, it will store it in some memory location 23, and no, and its name will be assigned as age. So whenever you will try to print the age, what you will get same number 23. Okay, so this is the way you take an input from a scanf and you print the output using the printf statement. So like if you want, we can just like some write some full-fledged coding programming language here. So just let me show you this particular thing. So just see that here we have written some instruction, and we want to like this is the simple interest you must have heard of. So it's like principal into number of year into sorry, into rate by 100. Okay, so this is the simple interest formula. So we want user to input p, we want user to input n, and we want user to input r, and then we want to calculate the simple interest based on this formula. So let's say how you can do it. Okay, so just I have written the code for your sake of understanding, for the sake of simplicity here already. So as the first line we already told ki this is exclusively written, this is need to be written, and this is the comment. So comment thing is actually does not matter. If you want, you can delete the comment also, these things are actually not executed. Then int main, same thing, and inside the single inverted single braces, you need to define the variable. So how to think from the scratch, like how to define a variable. So I already told that simple interest has three different things. So there is p, there is n, and there is r by 100. So you need to store p because user will give some principal amount, user will give some n, and user will give some value of r. So that's why we define integer, because principal amount is integer, number of years is integer. R means rate can be a floating point. So like 2.5% rate or maybe 3.7% rate. So this can be possible. So that's why we have written R as in float or SI. SI means whatever the value we will calculate, that will also be an floating point number. Because like 3.7 multiplied by some, let's say 100, and then divided by multiplied by some number of years one, and then divided by 100, it can be actually a floating point number. That's why we just wanted to make sure that if it's a floating point number, we don't miss the detail. That's why we've written float here. Okay, So printf enter values of p and r. So this values, this will show in a statement. So you can see that here a statement has been shown, and you need to give out input to the user. Okay, input to the computer. So whenever you give multiple input, you actually give those inputs separated by blank space. Blank space, like here is a blank space, here is blank space. So there are three inputs, which means 2000 is the p, because p is in the order. Then 2 is the n, because this is the next in order, and 2 is the r, because it is the next in the order. And what it will do, it will take all the input, it will multiply p into n into r, and then divide by 100. So this is a simple arithmetic example of a particular c. We will see more examples like this in the coming days. And what we do next, you will just write percent %f, because you want to print the simple interest. So just let's say let's say everything in excel. So let's run the command. So like it's asking about p, n, and r. So let's say I enter 1000, and then then separate by space I enter n, which let's say I enter 2, and r, let's say I enter 2.5. So we will give some output. So it's basically if you just see in the detail, so what's the output is, it's 1000 into 2 into 2.5 divided by 100. Okay, so just these things go, and uh, its value come to 50. So that's what you give it as an output. Okay, so this is a way you write a program. This is the way you take input from the users, and you do this type of things. Okay, so we are actually towards the end of this class, and this is the program that I wrote here. So you can just see it in yourself. And I have also written some basic, बहुत basic, very basic practice problem for you all. So if you want, you can just open the same programming platform, this, and you can just write the code for this particular language on your own, and you can check the output. If you want, you can also send me if you have some problem, or you want to discuss this type of things. We can just let me know also. So guys, this is for that the this class. If you have any questions till now or any suggestions, just let me know. Anyone? So means, did you like the class, or means, do you want to suggest something? I will happy to hear. Just let me know. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. 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 So from, okay, from tomorrow, what I will do is I will share the in advance before the class, like what will be the class on. Is it will be okay? Okay. Okay, so means, what do you want to suggest additionally? Yeah, classes will be live. Like I just want to discuss earlier regarding this. That's why earlier I told you all to just like, if you are just compatible with the recorded thing, then that will be fine. So that was also managing the time from my side only, because after a full time job I have to just find times to prepare the lectures, and then present with you, teach you all. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, I understand it. That's why I try to discuss with you. Okay, so just stick with me 2 to 3 days, and we'll just entering into the basic advanced concept. Like some of people actually told me that they are from physics background, and they don't have a knowledge of programming. That's why I just thought, okay, start from the basic. And obviously they have to work hard, because every day we'll not be discussing the basic thing. Means slowly we'll be to moving toward advanced thing. Okay, so thanks for the suggestions, Avantika, and I was really discussing those things prior to the in the group. So that's the way I wanted to discuss with you all. So thanks for the insight, and thanks with you all. So I hope today's lecture was good. I will share the recording once, I will just upload those things in the online platform, and I will also share the slides, and slowly, like I'm also uh, share, like weekly discussion material where I will just post some questions that you need to solve, and just same the same way as the questions asked in the CMI thing.